morning, everyone. We are so excited to be joining you for the launch of this incredible program and investment in the next generation. We were picked to do this event as a moms panel, so we are all moms up here, and we'd love to start our conversation today talking about our journey as mothers and what this program is going to mean for our children and grandchildren. To start, if you're unfamiliar with me, my name is Isabel Brown. I'm a content creator and the host of the Isabel Brown Show with the Daily Wire, a daily show geared towards Generation Z, where we discuss a whole host of cultural issues every day, from religion to politics, food, parenting, dating, and everything in between. But much more importantly, I am a mom to a beautiful 9-month-old little girl who just fell asleep backstage, or she would be sitting out here with us. Her name is Isla, and between my husband's job here in the administration in DC and my work, we are a very, very busy family, constantly plugging in our family to a greater service to this next generation, but so excited to be teaching our children every step of the way what it means to create the American dream, both in our home and around the country. So very excited about this program. Rebecca, how about you?
I am a mother of two, a 6-year-old boy and a 2-year-old girl, and I'm also 40 and pregnant. Due in the beginning of June. Another summer baby. I'm so delighted to be here, and I'm so happy that everybody is here as well, because it seems like we're all on the same page as far as how important this is for our children, how important this is for the future of America. And a part of our children's future is making sure that they have opportunity, and obviously when you have money, it's a tool, and you have way more opportunity. And so, I'm so happy. I'm calling him Grandpa Trump because I feel like he's giving my child, something like a nice gift, so I'm just so thrilled to be here and share more about, the importance of this Trump accounts.
Well, hello everybody. I'm Karoline, for those in the crowd whom I have not met, and it's great to see so many beautiful babies here today. They offered to bring our children. Isabel brought her perfectly behaved, beautiful daughter who's sleeping backstage. They said, "You can bring your son." I said, "If I brought my 18-month-old son, he would be diving off of this stage, he would be pulling our hair, he would be crazy." Boys and girls are very different, and I'm going to soon learn that myself. I have an 18-month-old, and then of course one on the way. So I'm due in May, and very much looking forward to having a daughter. I'm very excited and proud to be here on behalf of the President in the White House today. The Trump accounts are an incredible initiative, perhaps the most pro-family initiative, one of the many pro-family initiatives this President has worked very hard to deliver upon. And I was so honored to really have a first-hand seat to watch how hard President Trump and the White House worked to get this initiative signed into law, and to really see this idea grow into a reality, to bring us here today where American families across the country can literally sign their children up for these accounts, which will lead to future investments, the reawakening of the American dream in this country. So it's just an honor to be here as not just the White House press secretary, but also as a mother, and sitting beside the great Cheryl Hines, for those who don't know.
Oh, thank you for that introduction. Yes, my name is Cheryl Hines. I am a mother of 7. My daughter, thank you. Hold for applause now. Okay. My daughter Catherine is here today. Kat, you want to stand up and wave to everybody? She doesn't, but she will. I had one child, Catherine, and then when I married Bobby Kennedy Jr., he had 6, so together we had 7. And as I'm reminded, I am also a grandmother of 3. I don't feel like a grandmother, that's why it's hard to...
You don't look like one either, girl.
It took you long enough to get there. But yeah, so we have a very big family, and it's, there's always something going on. And like you were talking about, as a mother, as a parent, you have a lot of responsibilities, just trying to get through the day sometimes. And then when your child turns 18, they are going off on their own as an individual. So as a parent, all of those years you're trying to pave the way for them, to teach them, to let them become more and more independent. And I love this program because it's not about red or blue politics. This is about every American having a start, having an investment in their future from the time they're born. So I know that we're going to talk about it, but that's why I wanted to be here today, because I think that's very exciting.
So exciting and very important. Karoline, let's start with you, just on some of the nuts and bolts of the program itself. You have a beautiful baby girl on the way, which is so very exciting. So I imagine you'll be signing your daughter up for a camp.
Yeah.
How do families do this logistically?
So I will be signing up my daughter for a Trump account. What perfect timing, am I right? But this initiative, I would encourage everyone, if they have not, and I would encourage the media in the back as well, to please take a look and cover trumpaccounts.gov. This is the way that families across the country can learn more and can actually sign up for the accounts. And I know the Department of Treasury and the IRS have worked incredibly hard to upscale their web design and website to ensure that this is as easy and accessible as possible. I'm blown away by the website. I tweeted it out on my own account this morning because I really think it's important for people to see how easy this initiative and accessible it is. The website design is just beautiful. It's forward looking, it's futuristic, it's as easy as an app on your iPhone. To make it really simple for parents who, to Cheryl's point, are so busy, and filing taxes for many is, it can be a headache, but this is something to really look forward to. And so for families with children and newborns who are eligible for that $1,000 really startup bonus, that seed in the account to get this investment started, it's an incredible thing that so many parents across the country can take advantage of now. And even if your child was born outside of the eligibility years, you can still sign up for an account at any time, and you can start that seed fund with your own investment. I also just want to point out how incredible this initiative is because it brings the private sector and the federal government together, which is something President Trump does best. He is a businessman at heart. He is running the federal government like it's a company, trying very hard to, cutting through the bureaucracy and the waste and the fraud. And this program, this initiative, is an example of seeing philanthropists and businessmen and women and entrepreneurs come together with those at the highest level of government to do what's right for American families. So also big thank you to Michael Dell and his wonderful wife and the Dell family, who have been just a huge part of this, and all of the other successful Americans and companies who have generously donated. Two stats I want to point out, if I could. I like to bring the receipts when I know the press will be in the room. 38% of Americans don't own stock. But with these Trump accounts now, every single newborn child within the years of eligibility will be invested in the stock market. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And I know Secretary McMahon at the Department of Education is working really hard to sort of upgrade our curriculum across the country, allowing states to lead first, so that children can learn about the stock market, can learn about our economy, can learn about these basic life skills that they should be taught in our classrooms. This is something our children are going to be learning about for generations to come and benefiting from themselves. And then secondly, this statistic blew me away so much, I had the fact checkers fact check it again, but it's true. As parents, if we make maximum contributions to our child's Trump account, the projected value will be nearly $1.1 million by the time they are 28 years old. That is incredible. By the time your child is 28 years old, the Trump account could earn them up to $1.1 million. I'm 28 years old right now. I wish I had a Trump account back in 1997, so this is amazing.
Yes, indeed, and I think it's so interesting to look at this retroactively, understanding that for many Gen Zers in our country, financial literacy was never a part of our curriculum growing up. No one taught us how to file for our taxes, no one taught us how to purchase a home or to invest in the stock market.
Even to fill out a job application.
Absolutely correct. So making sure that our children have this capacity is so important from the education side. But Cheryl, you talked about parenting as launching your children successfully into the world. Are you hopeful that new parents, and this generation of new parents in particular, has the chance to learn some financial literacy along the way with our kids through this program?
Well, I do. I think that this program is so helpful in that way because, like you were talking about when you were growing up, when I was growing up a long time ago, we didn't talk about money in our house. We didn't have any money in house. My parents worked very hard and they were just getting by. But even to talk about finances, to talk about money, was so stressful. And it was stressful because you just didn't have any. So to start an account that has money in it, that is going to be that child's account, is such a great way to introduce finances, financial literacy, financial independence, and a great time for parents to be able to talk about it with their children. And, we all know every child develops differently at different ages. So, as a parent, you can keep connecting with your child when they're 8, when they're 10, when they're 12, and look at the accounts, look at what that interest is. And like you were talking about too, having parents, I don't want to say donate, that's not the right word, is it? Invest, contribute, and even like Kevin O'Leary was saying, once you start working, I started working when I was 14, to have an employer invest in that account is very exciting. And it is hopeful, it's the opposite of stressful. It is time to talk about your child's future with them. And I think that's just so great. And a child will already be emotionally invested in that because it's theirs.
Not only is this creating a major pendulum swing for the financial security of our children's future, which is so important in and of itself, but Rebecca, I think this also marks a huge cultural shift that we're seeing in response to what can only be described as the degradation of the American family we've witnessed throughout our lifetime. In the last several years, marriage rates have been at a historic low. We know our fertility rate as a country is at a historic low. Our Vice President spoke last week at the March for Life here in D.C. about his goal and dream to have America make more babies, which they are putting their money right where their mouth is as a beautiful second family right now in office. Your organization does incredible work ensuring that moms feel that greater sense of service to our society and culture at large. Do you think we may see more moms and dads as a result of this program?
Yes. Short answer, yes. I'm so grateful that it's colliding at the time that it is, because the more involved I am getting into my Moms for America organization, it's just so on par with what I am doing in my children in raising them to be America-loving, learning from our founding fathers, learning how, if the more you learn about our founding fathers, you can't not be affected by their character that they all had. And instilling that in my children, starting at, my daughter, I have a couple books, but she's only 2. My 6-year-old is really, at the age, like you were saying, Cheryl, every age is different, and you kind of have to just figure out how you can relate to them at that point and how you can teach them things at that point, because then it changes. Like, as soon as you figure out your child, like, they're changing. But I think that it's just another way to invest in them and to love our country even more, and to be grateful and know the privilege that we have as Americans. My husband is born in Denmark, and so he has a very unique perspective. He's always had the American dream ever since he was my son's age. When he was a little kid, he wanted to move over here because he's a numbers guy as well, so he understood the opportunity. And so that is very exciting, and accountability as well. Accountability because how I grew up, my parents got divorced and my life was a mess, and it's fine, made me who I am, but I didn't have any kind of foundation to build on. And in the beginning of my life starting out, I always felt there was a hindrance, and that was I wasn't financially free to do anything. And even after I took out loans for college, I just, you have it on your credit, and then you can't, so it's just the fact that I get to do this for my children is really, it makes me emotional, because it's really setting them up for an amazing life. But accountability, I have a funny story to tell you. My 6-year-old's in debt right now. And when I told him that, he was like, I'm in debt? What does that mean? Because he thought it was okay to go on Amazon. He's not allowed to do that, but he went on Amazon and bought $800 worth of Pokemon cards. $800. And he's very much into soccer cards and Pokemon cards. And so when I actually told him about his Trump account, he was so excited. He already started thinking of the business that he would have. He said, I don't want to go to school, I want to start a business with that money. He thought I said 3,000, but I said it's going to be more around 300,000. That's our goal. But anyway, he said, I want to start now. And I said, no, Miles, you can't do that. And he was like, why? And I said, because you're in debt. And he's like, what does that mean? I'm like, that means that you can't do anything until you pay off that debt. You don't have money to invest in your business, because investing in your business, you have to go find the cards, keep them for a little bit, and then sell them. I guess that's how it works. I don't know. So anyway, so as a 6-year-old, for him to grasp that, he then knew. He quickly got it, and then he went to my husband and he told him, he's like, Daddy, Mommy said I'm in debt, and you know, all this stuff. So, but now we have a chart, and he is working off his debt to us. So, you know, it starts so young. I mean, sometimes as a mom, I think, oh, well, I'll get there. Like, I'm going to teach them that, but they're too young. But it's really, you can really start now.
Anytime, yeah, and that's actually wildly important for parents with young children today. You mentioned passing on the American dream.
Now, anytime, yeah, and that's actually wildly important for parents with young children today. You mentioned passing on the American dream, and I think it's important for us to sit with that for a moment, because pretty much every pollster and media organization will tell you today that young adults no longer believe in the American dream. We think it's a disillusionment, it's no longer available to our generation, and yet behind us I see a beautiful headline that we're jump-starting the American dream for this next generation. That messaging is so important, Karoline, because I really do think that's setting the tone for culture at the top. It's not telling young people, figure it out for yourselves, we're going to continue borrowing from our country's financial future and throwing you under the bus as a process. To the contrary, we're flipping the script and the narrative in Washington through these Trump accounts by investing in the next generation and telling them you can be the champion of your own future, and generationally the American dream continues to survive. That's happening at the same time as a bit of a baby boom down the street at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue that you are participating in. Can you speak to the culture that is
We practice what we preach.
Yes, you do. Can you speak to that culture that is so pro-family and how that's manifesting in so many different policies like this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there is a very pro-family culture in the White House, and I credit the president to that, and also our great chief of staff, Susie Wiles, who really just encourages and supports all of us as young parents. There's several other young mothers in the West Wing and many young mothers across the whole White House complex, but there's also several young fathers whom I work alongside. And so there are always children, toddlers, babies in the West Wing in our offices, and it's totally normal. And I think that's a really beautiful thing, because we are able to not just work for the greatest president in our lifetimes, but also raise beautiful young families. And that opportunity has been provided to us directly by the president and our chief of staff, Susie. So thank you to both of them. But I think the fact that that culture in the White House exists is because the president understands that the essence and the foundation of the American dream is the American family. And I'm sitting and listening to Rebecca's stories of her household. You know, those will be core memories for your son. We all have core memories from our childhood. One of mine is when my mother brought me to TD Bank up in New Hampshire to start my very first bank account. I think I was probably 10 years old. And I remember bringing in my little purse and sitting with the bank teller and thinking, this is so cool. And that was my very first checking account, which was a joint checking account at the time with my parents, and watching that grow, and then working at our family's ice cream stand throughout the years. And these Trump accounts are going to really form core memories for parents and their children within their households, which will set up our country one household at a time for success. And in addition to these Trump accounts, these are a huge initiative, but it's just one small piece of the puzzle with respect to all President Trump is doing. If you look at the One Big Beautiful Bill in its entirety, the largest middle-class tax cuts for working families in American history. No tax on tips for service workers, no tax on overtime for for our law enforcement officers and anyone who is working overtime to try to make ends meet. No tax on Social Security for our seniors. And in addition to prosperity, the other most important facet of the American dream is safety. And as a mother, there's nothing you want more than your child to be safe and healthy in this country. And thank you to your husband for all he's doing to make America healthy again. That's an amazing movement that the president promised and he delivered by appointing your husband and all of the great work they're doing at HHS. But I think safety and health and prosperity are really the three things as parents you want the most for your children. And if you look across the board at all of the policies this president is implementing, from Trump accounts to border security to working with local law enforcement to make our cities safe places for American families, removing dangerous, violent criminals from American streets, and again, making America healthy again. Just everything this administration is doing is restoring the American dream, and it's very exciting to be part of.
And it really does start inside the White House. Karoline and I, if you didn't know, met when we were interns for the White House in 2018.
We started from the bottom together, Isabel.
Life is crazy how it all works out. And back then, you know, it was classic D.C. work culture, I think still. It always is, whether you're on the Hill or the administration. You want to be the first one at work and the last one to leave, really prove yourself, and it's always been that way in this city. But I can't tell you how many young families I hear from in the administration who are constantly told, it's 6 o'clock, what are you still doing here? Get home to your baby. You can finish this at home. That's so much more important in the legacy that we are building as an administration than any email you could be sending from here at the White House. And a huge component of that, Cheryl, that I'm constantly talking about with my audience in our show is this intergenerational family dynamic. There are so many new grandparents in America right now that are so excited about participating in their grandchildren's lives. My baby is the first grandchild on both sides, so we have very excited grandparents across the spectrum in our family. What do these accounts mean for you and your grandchildren, knowing that this is not just something we pass on to the next generation, but theoretically transforms our families and our economy moving forward into several generations?
Yes, well, it's like what we've all been talking about. I think as a grandparent, it's exciting to sit down with a 3-year-old, look at numbers, ask, what do you want when you're 18? What do you want when you're 25? What do you want when you're 30? And if you had $1,000 right now, what would you do with it? Which is a really fun game to play with a 3-year-old, because it's probably candy or Pokemon. But even just to talk to them, to hear them, and then like we talked about, when they get older, they'll have different dreams and ideas. But as a grandparent, as a parent, it's exciting to be a part of that. And as a grandparent, it's nice to know you can put money into an account for your grandchild or your child. My sister is also here today, Dr. Becky Hines. We were talking about what's great about this account, because at some point when your child is maybe 12, and maybe your grandmother asks your 12-year-old girl what she wants for the holidays, and as a grandmother, you're going to get her that ugly sweater that you love to give. But maybe she'll say, what I would rather have from you is the $50 to put into my accounts, because I'm saving, and this is what I want to do with the money. So it's a very exciting, empowering tool and learning tool. And so it's fun. It's like we said, they're invested emotionally and financially. So it's something that you can work together as a family. And we were talking about having a lot of siblings growing up. And I
asked you if it was crazy having 7, because it was crazy to be.
Yeah, because how many did you have? How many siblings?
The 5th of 7.
Yeah, 7.
Yeah.
So when you're in a big family like that and you're one of many children, a lot of times you don't have your own thing. You're waiting to get the hand-me-down dress from your sister or the old bike from your brother. But so to know that you have your own accounts and you have control over it, you get to decide what you're going to do with it. It's not your parents deciding for you. It's when you're 18, you get to decide. It's very, it gives someone a feeling of pride, a feeling of individuality and independence.
Absolutely,
I was
and
gonna
it's a
say
huge
individuality.
shift, I think, into that individuality that typically when we were growing up, the idea was you had a college investment account and you were expected to use that for tuition dollars. Rebecca, you said your son wants to start a business when he turns 18 and wants to make sure that he has the chance to be an entrepreneur. What an incredible foundation to be able to give him when it comes to investing in your own American dream for teenagers now and children who will grow up with these accounts. Do you think that's going to create more of an entrepreneurial spirit with this next generation?
Absolutely. I mean, going off what Cheryl was saying, you know, whether you're in a big family or a small family, just that that specific investment to them as an individual, you know, is it, you know, over and over and over, because kids are, it's repetition, right? And you know, just they can start to dream their dreams every time you bring that up to them. And there was something else I was going to say. I'm pregnancy brain.
We've all been there many times. I hear that too.
But yeah, I see that in my son because, you know, but I really want to bring up the Moms for America organization because I really encourage everyone to visit the website if they can. If you are, they have a Grammy Grizzlies group too. So
Grammy Grizzlies, Cheryl. Sounds fun.
But it's, you know, it's like, it just gives encouragement. Actually, they talk a lot about health. I'm sorry, I know that's not the most flattering.
No, I enjoy the name.
It's a privilege. It really is. It's
No,
a
it
huge
is a privilege. I actually wanted to ask you that. Do they call you Grandma, or what do they call you?
They call me Share Bear.
Share Bear.
You are a Grammy
love that.
Grizzly. That's perfect.
I am a bear. You're right.
Share Bear, that's so cute.
That's powerful.
I love it. But you know, I can't help but think of that when I think of the talks that I will have with my children for their investment account. You know, because it just goes back to the foundation of the dream that our founding fathers had. You know, and yeah, so.
Karoline, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. The media is here today, and you deal with media day in and day out with your job. I'm already starting to see an interesting reaction to the idea that we do have a fertility crisis and a marriage crisis, a family crisis, as some sort of partisan political talking point, that it only applies to one side of the political aisle today. And I'm sure there will be many who come out saying, because it's called the Trump account, this is not a good idea for our society or a positive investment in the next generation. What message would you tell the media and those who might be skeptical about this, that this really is about all of our families and about the entire American people?
Well, we will try our best to get fair coverage on these accounts, and I do think for the most part the coverage has been positive and fair because it is such an overwhelmingly positive and nonpartisan issue. However, it is unfortunate that most Democrats on Capitol Hill voted against the piece of legislation that signed these Trump accounts into law. So remember that, Americans, who's voting for these Trump accounts and investments and who is not. But I would just add that it is unfortunate, the bias in the legacy media. We do fight it every day, but I would encourage everyone who's here to please cover this fairly and honestly, because this is an incredible initiative that really has the potential and the power to change lives. And that's why the president is showing up here today. We've already done a few Trump account events with him over at the White House, but he wanted to come in just a few minutes, I believe, to speak with all of you directly about this again, because it is such an incredible achievement for our country and for our children. And it's something that, to Cheryl's point, red or blue or nonpartisan, I think all Americans can and should be able to celebrate, and that includes those in the media.
One more logistical question I had for you, Karoline, about the program is something that really I haven't seen any coverage about in the media at this point. We know that if your baby is born within a certain window, they'll have the $1,000 bonus, which is a fantastic investment in their future. Parents can contribute up to $5,000 annually from a tax-deductible standpoint, which is amazing. But employers are also eligible to contribute to these accounts, and I haven't seen anyone talk about that. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so just to go back to the eligibility, if your child was born January 1st, 2025 through 2028, you're eligible for that $1,000 sort of seed fund to get the Trump account up and running from the United States government, and then an additional $5,000 each year contributed by yourself or others into the account, maximum $5,000. Employers are also allowed to contribute, which I think is an incredible thing for businesses, small, medium, and large. And it's something that I believe, as a young mother myself, and having a lot of friends who work in the private market and private sector, employers should use as a recruiting tool. I mean, how wonderful when you are trying to hire the best and brightest talent coming out of our colleges and universities to really use this as a recruiting tool for these young people who want to work at these big companies and corporations. You can tell them, we'll invest in you, and not just you, but also your future and your children. So again, this is just a beautiful example of President Trump knowing that the private sector often works best. And while he's the head of the entire United States federal government, finding ways to work with entrepreneurs and businessmen and women who are enabling the American dream. And those great men and women should not be demonized. They should be celebrated, and they should have a partnership with this administration and administrations to come as well.
Cheryl, we've talked a couple of times about your husband's effort to make America healthy again, which we are so deeply grateful for. And I'm curious to get your perspective on financial security as an element of that. Health certainly is multifaceted when it comes to what we eat, the pharmaceuticals that we take, our mental health and spiritual health. But what will this mean for the next generation of Americans?
I think it really speaks to mental health. Like I said, when I was younger, and when you don't have money, it is very stressful, and it's hard to talk about. You internalize it. You oftentimes don't, if you're a parent, you're not sharing that with your children. So this is a positive way to talk about finances, to plan for the future, to have peace of mind. Even as a parent, I could probably name 50 parents who have kids who said, the day they're born, I'm going to start an account. But the day they're born, you're already working 24 hours a day, and that may not have happened. And so for a parent, it gives you a peace of mind that there is an account there for that child, only for that child. So it brings you a sense of calm. You're talking about money in a positive way, which brings you some mental health ease. So I do think when you're talking about MAHA and you're talking about a healthy lifestyle, that also includes finances, because you can take care of yourself all day and eat right and exercise, but if you are under so much stress because you don't know how to make financial decisions, it will affect your health. So I think this program is, like we're saying, it's bipartisan. It's not about politics. It's about children and families, and I think it's really a great program.
In our last few minutes together, I would love to switch gears a bit as we await the president's arrival here to just ask what this is going to mean for moms and what legacy you all are leaving as a mom for your family. Parenting has been so demonized in so many different ways in our culture throughout our lifetime, and I think young women especially have been told such negative things about the experience of raising the next generation, of experiencing pregnancy, and all of the beautiful things that come along with that. We have two pregnant moms here on stage today, and very busy women. We're all working women in our own way, but I think we would all say our family is certainly the most beautiful thing that has ever happened to our lives. So if you can share a bit about what that means for you and how you will encourage the next generation generation to experience that for themselves as well. That would be phenomenal. Rebecca, we can start with you.
Thank you. So I never really knew who I was until I became a mom. And I know that may sound corny, but it's absolutely true. And I didn't know what I was capable of either until I became a mom. And going back to what Cheryl was saying, I will testify on that. That was me in my 20s and even into my early 30s. Mostly my 20s when, you should be like, this is me, it's my life, I'm, going out into the world. But I didn't have that. So, but yeah, it's motherhood for me has been a constant refining process, and it's never done. Like God does so many things through my children, to me as a person, and you never know how many faces selfishness has until you have children, and you're like, I'm starving and I'm tired. When is it about me? But you're always putting them first, and it's the biggest sense of purpose I've ever felt, and it's the biggest dump of joy at the end of the day. And I've done a lot of cool things in my life, but there's absolutely nothing that I can compare it to. It's the most rewarding thing, and it's also has a very there's a stigma attached to it. Like, your life will be over if you have kids, or you're not going to be yourself anymore. But that's right. You're going to be someone better. You're going to be someone way better, and you're going to meet a part of yourself that you were destined to be. And again, I don't want to sound so corny, but it's really by God's design.
Yeah.
We are the life givers. We are the heartbeat of the home, and we're the heartbeat of the nation. And we are responsible. We have the privilege to have the responsibility of investing in little humans that love you so much and putting them out into society. And if we just get back to that, I think that is another, part of the equation in America. And I just want to point just one thing. Like George Washington, his mother was, you can go throughout his journals and things, and he loved his mother. His mother did everything to, create who he was, really. And I didn't even know this. He was about to join the British Royal Navy. Did anybody know that? And she was like, I don't think so. You're going to pray, and you're going to ask for God's direction. And so he did. And so anyway, that, knowing that about our history, I think is very important for moms as well. And there's just so many people, not just in America, but around the world that had, such a big impact in shaping world's history and American history. Yeah,
I don't think any of us could have said it better ourselves. So very powerful. Thank you all so much for your role in serving our country in different ways and serving your beautiful families. And thank you again to President Trump and to our Treasury Department for this incredible investment. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.